I come up to you, your teammate.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the off season, maybe it's the season. I know you're the man.
Yeah.
And I say, Osi, I need a loan.
Yeah.
I need to borrow some money. This is something that happens in the locker room.
All the time.
My man Osi.
Yes, sir.
Back in the locker room. It's been brought to light throughout different documentaries and things of that nature about athletes in financial woes. And it's always interesting to me in the locker room that we don't have more discussions about our finances.
Yeah.
And the reason I say this is that locker room has got a wealth of information. You have players from all different tax brackets and all different levels of financial wisdom because there's money there. There's decisions, good and bad. And it's amazing to me, Osi, that we're in a sport that we constantly discuss our mistakes.
Yeah.
Every time we come off of a game, win or loss, we discuss the things we did not do well.
Yeah.
Why do you think in the locker room, players don't have these financial conversations to help each other prevent some of these mistakes?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah. That's some good stuff there, Jay. You know, I think the problem is, not to contradict you, but we are having those conversations, right? But we're having the wrong conversations. We're having conversations about money, but it's, oh, look at my Phantom. Look at my Rolls Royce. Look at my Lamborghini. Look at my chain. Look at my watch. Look at all these, irrelevant things that we're doing, spending our money, but the real things that are actually going to generate wealth, we're not having those conversations, And the reason why the mistakes that you alluded to keep on happening is that exact thing. We are not having those kind of conversations that are going to bring each other up. All we are doing is competing with each other in some form or fashion. I'll give you an example. I had some really good friends of mine, Takeo Spikes, Carlos Emmons in Atlanta. These are my big brothers, people who I look up to. They bought some nice houses, right? And so I'm in Atlanta, the Black Hollywood, the Black Mecca. I go to their houses, I see how they're living. I see, them balling. I'm like, you know what? Whenever I sign a big deal, I'm going to buy the biggest house in Atlanta. This was my mentality. And I did that. I did buy a massive house. I was living in basically one room in this massive house. 90% of this house went to waste. And what ended up happening is eventually when I sold that house, I ended up losing a significant amount of money. So the question is now, why did I do that? What wasn't nobody around to be like, hey, you don't need all that. You just need a nice house. You don't need to buy the biggest house. Do you know how much money you're going to spend trying to maintain that house? Do you know the depreciation of that house? Do you know all the things that are go into maintaining a house of that magnitude? Nobody had that conversation with me. It was all about competition. And because we're so competitive on the field, we take that into, off the field as opposed to being like, hey, Jason, my financial advisor said you should invest in Amazon, or you should invest in these stocks, you should invest in these bonds. We have all this information. We have all the resources available to us, Jay. We do, but we don't. We spend so much time competing on nonsense and having conversations about nonsense. And I feel like this is the reason why we keep on ending up in the same situation over and over again.
I come up to you, your teammate.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the off season, maybe it's the season. I know you're the man.
Yeah.
And I say, Osi, I need a loan.
Yeah.
I need to borrow some money. This is something that happens in the locker room.
All the time.
How do you handle that? And especially if you've done it before and it hasn't worked out well.
Yeah. That has happened to me before. And the thing that most people need to understand about the NFL is, or professional athletes in general, is the money is relative. You have a bunch of people who are making millions of dollars, and then you have some people who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is a lot of money, but
in the same locker room.
They're all in the same locker room. And But the funny thing is, because we're looked at as all being in the NFL, the guys who are making millions of dollars and the guys who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, they're under the same pressure from everybody else. They got family members who this is their only hope. So say for instance, a guy's making $400,000. After taxes, that's $200,000. After agent fees, it's $180,000. And then he now has to, budget his lifestyle. He now has to do everything for his family with that money, right? So now you have this situation where a lot of people are essentially broke. They don't really have any money, maybe for mismanagement of resources or whatever. And so they now come to you because they know the amount of money you're making and they ask you for help. Now, the way I handled the situation was the guy who came to me and asked me for this is a guy who I loved. And it's not like he was just on the fringe of being he was a friend of mine. And he came to me and I knew, and this is going to sound awful, but I knew that this guy wasn't going to make it. And I also knew that if I gave this guy the money, I was never going to see that money again. I did know that. And what I did was I gave him the money, but I gave him an amount of money that I knew I could afford to lose. I just knew it. I was like, okay, I have so much love for this guy. I'm going to give him this money and I'm never going to see this money again. But because I had it at the time, I just decided to do it anyway. I never saw that money again. And oddly enough,
I don't know how I'm laughing at this.
Oddly enough, me and this guy aren't friends anymore.
That's the problem.
We're not friends anymore. Because he knows he owes me that money. He knows he's never going to pay it to me, but he feels some kind of way about it, so he doesn't know how to. But in my head, I'm not tripping, because in my head, I knew giving him the money, I was never going to see this money again. But me and him are no longer close because that money is in between us now. And it's unfortunate, Jay.
And that's the problem. It's happened in my life too. Loans that I've given out, even one of my teammates paid me back. But our relationship is on the fringes because of that dynamic.
Yep.
I like to see all of my brothers I played with doing well in post-retirement. And it's hard to make money.
Yeah.
But it's easy to lose it. So we can have these conversations, educate each other to avoid those pitfalls. You know what? We can all retire, have a good time. The woes of a locker room.
That's crazy.